Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Recovery Classroom. My name is Drew. I'm an alcoholic, and today I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I cannot be any more grateful. If you're local to the Huntington, West Virginia area, tonight at 7 o'clock, come on down and hang out with us at the quickest hour in recovery. It's our Crosstalk Tuesday meeting, 5747 East Pea Ridge Road in Huntington. Always a hell of a good time. Just come on down, hang out with a group of like-minded drunks and drug addicts, sitting around talking shop, having fun in recovery. So, several weeks back, I mentioned to folks about us beginning a podcast, myself, Drenda, Eric, and having the occasional guest on. We're talking about topics related to getting clean and sober and staying clean and sober. If you have topics or have questions you'd like to ask, feel free to email it directly to me, Drew, D-R-E-W, at recoveryclassroom.org. We'll take a look at it and try to figure out how we can start leveraging this medium to help reaching people and communicate that message of hope, healing, and restoration with all those who may benefit from it. I also want to continue our series, our W.A.Y series. When I first came into the rooms, I was fortunate enough to surround myself with folks who took me under their wing and shared the way they got sober, and they were very clear. They said, this is the way we got sober. This is not the way you have to get sober. And we want to communicate that to you as well. And for me and my purposes here with this monologue, this is the way I got sober, not necessarily the way you have to get sober. It was always presented to me as suggestions only. I could take it or leave it. It was up to me. But that's what we want to do here. And when I use the word way, I want you to think of it as an acronym, kind of like what I shared yesterday. What are you? Yesterday, I used the topic, what are you paying attention to? Today, I want to ask you, what are you doing? Many of my friends will have heard me say this line 1,000 times. When we're praying to God to move mountains, don't be surprised when He hands us a shovel. And what that means is that implies that we have to take some type of action. So what am I doing? What action am I taking to help myself get clean and sober and stay that way? Great example, the first, 6 months maybe, anytime I was out driving around, I was maybe dropping my kids off here or going here or doing that or whatever, I would take the long way home. In other words, I would drive 5, sometimes more miles out of my way to get home because I knew I had to pass a liquor store. And I just didn't want to tempt myself. And I know that seems small and seemingly insignificant, but it was some type of action that I took because early in my sobriety, I just didn't know how to get clean and sober. I just didn't know at all. And if by chance I would walk into a place that just happened to sell liquor, there's a particular gas station I'm thinking of that does sell liquor, I would walk in, I'd be like, oh shit, wait a minute. I would make sure I would at least call somebody and keep them on the phone with me until I got out the door. If I knew that I was going to be driving past the liquor store, I would make sure I had somebody in the car with me, maybe one of my kids, maybe my wife, maybe one of my relatives. I would try to always make sure I had some sort of accountability. I know these sound so small and seemingly insignificant. They did to me at the time, but I also knew that it's the little things that meant a lot. It's the small and seemingly insignificant moments, actions that we take that can add up and pay out big dividends. Now, with that being said, another important action that I took, and this is critical too, is I started hanging out with people who were thinking like I wanted to start thinking. I started hanging out with people who had already found a solution to their drug and alcohol problem because I was looking for a solution to my alcohol problem. So I started going to meetings. That was another small action that I took. Now, let me be clear. When I came back into the rooms, I really didn't want anything to do with Alcoholics Anonymous. I really didn't want anything to do with this Mahamba Jamba pie in the sky bullshit. Or so I thought, right? But I knew it made sense to me. If I wanted to get clean and sober, I was going to have to start hanging out and talking to people who had gotten clean and sober. Again, another small action that I was able to take. So I ask you, what are you doing? What actions are you taking to help yourself? Because again, you may be praying for a higher power to move mountains for you, and He's handing you a shovel. What are you doing with that shovel? Before, I would always take a shovel and dig myself into a deeper hole. Well, finally, I started taking small steps of action. Start digging out that mountain that I was asking God to move for me. What are you doing to help yourself? Are you trying to get clean and sober, but yet you're still hanging out with people who are actively using and drinking? How do you think that's going to work out? I don't think it's going to work out very well. It's just my opinion, and you're entitled to tell me to shove it up my ass, and that's fine. But if I'm trying to get clean and sober and I'm hanging out with people who are still drinking, then chances are my success rate is going to be really low. And I was at the point where, some type of small action was better than no action at all. It was better than no action at all. One of the very first sayings that I heard when I came into the rooms, and this is the earliest saying that I can remember anyway, is nothing changes if nothing changes. So if I don't change where I'm at, then I'm always going to be where I'm at. And where I was at when I came back into the rooms in 2021 was in a pretty miserable fucking place, let me assure you. So I knew I had to take some action to at least move me, even the smallest, most incremental amount forward or away from where I was at, because where I was at was miserable. I didn't want to be there anymore. But if I didn't do something, then I was going to stay exactly where I was at. My question is, what are you doing? Are you going to meetings? Are you talking to your sponsor? Are you driving out of your way to avoid a liquor store? Driving out of your way to avoid a particular corner you might have got your drugs from? Are you avoiding phone calls from people that you know are probably not good or conducive to you getting clean and sober? Or what are you doing is the question. What is your way of doing things? What effort are you putting in whenever your higher power hands you that shovel and says you better get to digging? At the end of the day, there's no one way that fits for everybody. There's only the way that works for you. And that's what we want to help you find out. What way works for you? But I have to ask you, and it begs the question, what are you doing? Are you going to your meetings, or are you missing them? Are you hanging out with people who are still doing the same behaviors that you're trying to avoid? What are you doing? That being said, I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys for letting me come in and share 5 to 10 minutes of your day with you. You guys absolutely keep me sober, and I cannot be any more appreciative. Again, if there's a topic you'd like to hear discussed for our upcoming podcast, feel free to email it directly to me, Drew, D-R-E-W, at recoveryclassroom.org. And again, I'm just so excited. So, and if there's a topic you'd like to hear discussed on this monologue as well, feel free to send it to me in an email as well. So we'll be talking again soon, guys. Remember, you cannot get drunk if you don't take that first drink.